This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 436. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and I am joined by my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
This is my favorite sports hate episode of the year, Brandon, as we go through our Know Your Rivals little series that we do every offseason. Cards last week. That was a nice little warm-up to kind of get the sports hate juices flowing. And I feel primed and ready to go to talk about the catfish Rams. God, I hate them. We got to get a couple catfishes in early. Catfish them.
Well, it's important because the Rams, when it comes to Know Your Rivals season, this is a team who has drawn the ire the most over the longest period of time over the course of this entire, the history of our show. Because even going back to before Sean McVay arrived, the stupid Rams have had our Seahawks number more than any team in the entire division.
Shoot, even under Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
They would pull off like rando wins.
They'd win 5 to 7 games every single year, and at least one, and sometimes even 2 would be over the Seahawks.
Exactly. And so that's why I put all of my irrational tribal sports hate right here against Hair Gel McVay and his stupid team and his stupid city and that stupid stadium. That's where I put it. I mean, we saw where you put that anger in the wrong spot happen earlier this weekend, Brandon. See, that's why we put all this nonsense right here and have a healthier outcome. And that's where kind of the sports hate comes from, right? Like, I just wanted to make that clear for everybody out there.
Right.
Like, I don't wish any like actual ill will on the Rams or Sean McVay or Stan Kroenke. Just professionally, all of it, like all the ill will possible.
Well, that's why you qualify it as sports hate, because it's not real hate. It comes from that similar place. But if you can divert it and recognize it and just keep it toward a healthy kind of hatred, as in, I hate that team and I want them to lose perpetually. As long as that's as far as it goes, I feel like you're keeping it in a good, healthy space.
I think that's the way to go about it. So,
and then you get all the anger out. The problem is with a team like the Rams is that you can never be fully satisfied in your sports hatred until you actually consistently win year after year after year. And hopefully we're moving in that direction.
I hope so too, man, because I'm sick and tired of the Rams having an inferior roster and then ending up getting a couple dubs against us a year. Like, it feels like for no reason. In the Sean McVay, Pete Carroll dynamic always seemed to kind of go to Sean McVay, and I'm annoyed by that. Like, for example, this last year, these two teams were 1 game apart in the standings, and Rams end up going to the playoffs, and then you hear everybody talk about these two teams in this offseason between the Seahawks and the Rams, and everybody acts like the Rams are half a player away from a Super Bowl, and the Seahawks are the Cardinals, right? And it's super annoying to hear that, because last year it was very clear the Seahawks had the better roster as the Rams were starting to suffer the ill effects of F them picks. Then last year able to kind of like pull it together a little bit and then get those 2 dubs over the Seahawks, making that difference there in the standings. And I'm tired of that, man. And I think that Mike Macdonald, the defensive guru coming in, he's here for one reason and one reason only: put the clamps down on the McShanahans.
Going back to last season, I think that's why last season for the Rams to go 10-7 was the most frustrating of any of their seasons, because like you mentioned, with the F them picks era in Los Angeles, it should have meant that last season was a downturn season for them. They should not have made the playoffs, and yet they score 404 points, which is good for 8th in the NFL. And as good as Aaron Donald still was, like, that defense took a step back. They allowed 377 points, 19th in the NFL, so in the bottom half of the NFL in terms of defense. But yet, because Stafford, because McVay, because they get Kyron Williams and start to develop a running game, who, he had a really good year despite missing 5 games. And they seem to find a way on offense, especially drafting Puka Nacua in the 4th round. They are able to pair him up with Kupp who was injured at the start of the season too. And yet they build this offense that can cover up for some of those deficiencies on defense. And as long as they were the first to 30 points, they were generally winning games.
Absolutely. Last year, you have no other argument than to say that they were an offensively driven team. No doubt about that. And they were driven by their quarterback. I mean, my biggest thing going into last year was just like, dude, Stafford looks like he's about done and having a hard time staying healthy. And I don't think any of that changes going into this next year. He happened to put together a healthy year, and good for him. I don't wish him injury. But boy, I have a hard time believing that he's going to put two of those in a row together. And if they don't continue that offensive progression that they were making last year, they're going to really struggle this year. And look, there's reasons to believe that they can. I mean, Puka's damn good. I mean, he's everything I was told JSN is. And that was annoying to watch. And then Cooper Kupp's still damn good. You mentioned Kyron Williams. They go out and they draft Blake Corum from Michigan, like looking as if they're going to commit to the run game, even though everybody thinks it should be a pass first, pass happy league. You're watching Shanahan, McVay, the brightest offensive minds, quote unquote, in the league, really lean more and more on the running game. And if they can do that, if Blake Corum ends up being a hit along with Kyron Williams, some of their offensive line moves kind of work out, then they may be able to sustain this offensive push that they made last year.
Well, we can go a little bit further in terms of their offensive philosophy and how they've been building their offense. They go and they extend their right guard. They sign left guard Jonah Jackson to a 3-year deal, and possibly getting retribution to the Lions for losing to them in the playoffs. They're like, okay, well, we'll just sign your left guard and improve our offensive line. They got Boston Scott as a little third down back. He has the ability to impact that offense in a positive way. So I think that they also have depth in the right places, depth in the running game, depth on the offensive line. And that's why I say it was annoying that they've kind of gotten through the F them picks and somehow able to now build depth through the draft and pay guys in free agency. The good thing is that they no longer have Aaron Donald, but we'll see if they can overcome that too.
Right. And, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, it really all starts and stops with that discussion. I mean, for the last couple of years, Brandon, we've been trying to get Sean McVay to go to the booth. We wanted Aaron Donald to retire. We're sick of these guys. And finally, we get the Aaron Donald retirement, and that feels great. One of the more delusional things I hear out of the Rams 5 fans is that you lose a once-in-a-generation player, maybe the best interior defensive tackle I've ever seen in my lifetime, and things are going to get better on the defensive line. They're going to go ahead and become an even better defensive unit, and they point to people like Michael Hoyt or Byron Young or Kobe Turner, and they're like, look, they had great seasons last year. Look how good they are. And, they'll pick up the slack now that Donald's gone. Then you don't understand how football works, because the whole reason they had awesome seasons is because Aaron Donald demands double teams, triple teams every single play. And it's not like Aaron Donald retired, like holding on to the last roster spot, for the last couple years of his career. He had 8 sacks last year, when he was the focal point of everybody's offensive game plan. Aaron Donald's amazing. The fact that they lose him, I think you can't overstate it. And they're not simply going to get a couple second-year dudes and a few rookies to come in and not only replace Aaron Donald's production, but according to most of these stupid Ram articles, they're going to increase their sack totals by quite a bit.
Yeah, Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, all you got to do is draft a dude in the first and second round, and those two guys will be able to completely cover up for the loss of Aaron Donald, and the Rams defense automatically gets better with the pass rush just by having 2 rookies that you drafted, and people all of a sudden know that the Rams are supposed to be better. On top of that, defensively, there are so many question marks. And just in terms of coaching, Raheem Morris, now the Falcons head coach. Jimmy Lake, the Rams' assistant head coach, is the Falcons' defensive coordinator. Eric Henderson, who was the defensive line coach and run game coordinator, he left for USC. So you bring in Chris Shula, you are hiring from within, and generally McVay has done pretty well in terms of hiring his coordinators. But they brought in Sean Desai, which seems like a questionable move as a senior defensive assistant. And they go out and they get Greg Williams, and not even the right Greg Williams, as their inside linebackers coach. So they have a lot of movement, not just on the player side, but also within the coaching side. And fans are expecting that they're just going to improve after a dude like Raheem Morris leaves.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And I'm glad you brought up Chris Shula, a rookie defensive coordinator in the NFL. Now, he does have NFL experience. It's all in one place. It's all right there with the Rams. Do we really know if that translates into being a great defensive coordinator? We don't. I mean, you guys have all heard me rip on the hiring of Ryan Grubb as offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. Now, he doesn't have any offensive experience or NFL experience, as Chris Shula has NFL experience coming in, but both rookie coordinators, and with their head coach being the opposite minded as they are in terms of Mike Macdonald being a defensive coach, then bringing in the inexperienced offensive coordinator and Grubb. Now you got an offensive minded head coach bringing in an inexperienced defensive coordinator. If I'm going to bang on the Seahawks for the Grubb hire, then I'm absolutely banging on the Rams for this, doing the exact same thing. There is no guarantee in the world, despite the last name Shula, that this guy's a great football coach, at all. And they all act like, well, Raheem Morris, fine, cool. But we have Chris Shula now and no Aaron Donald, but we're going to be awesome. I think they take a big step back defensively this year.
I think they have to. And on top of that, you look at some of the moves that they've made on defense, and a lot of them, hey, if everything goes well, then you look at some of these moves and you stand up and give them a standing ovation. But there's a lot of risk in signing a corner like Darius Williams to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. A guy who, if you thought that Rick Woolen was a bad tackler out at the corner spot, go watch Darius Williams play and you'll go, oh, you know what? Reek's not that bad. He's actually pretty good. And then also a non-tackling cornerback in Tre'Davious White, they signed to a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. On top of that, that dude's coming off an Achilles injury last season, and the season before that had an ACL tear. So a corner who you're expecting to cover some of the top dudes in the NFL and coming off of injuries that normally end corners' careers.
Absolutely, man. They basically are taking a gamble on the Klay Thompson of cornerbacks, right? Coming off an ACL and an Achilles. And we all saw what that meant for Klay. Now, that's a different sport and everything, but he was never the same. And I like Tre'Davious White as a cover corner when he was there with Buffalo. I think he's a very talented guy, but holy smokes, that's a lot to overcome, especially when you are a perimeter player and you got to keep up with the likes of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, Marvin Harrison Jr. now down in Arizona, and Debo coming out of the backfield. He's going to have a hard time doing that. Now, they did bring back the safety Johnson III, right?
Who's old.
Good for them. He's older. I mean, he's fine. He can play. He's an average dude.
He's average, yeah.
But the secondary doesn't look nearly as daunting as usual. And as usual, at inside linebacker, it's just a bunch of no-names. I don't know how they do this year after year and get away with it. But
it's Chris Shula. It's the magic of Chris Shula coaching up those linebackers and getting the most out of them, which is why he is bound to have success as the Rams defensive coordinator, Adam.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Pencil him in.
And how dare you? Ernest Jones is a very above average linebacker.
Okay.
I won't argue. They actually have to decide. In the past, the linebacker was the one spot that the Rams never had to worry about paying. They just brought in dudes who could do average things and be fine. And now it's like they have a decision with Ernest Jones. Do we actually have to pay a linebacker or not?
Who knows what they decide to do there? I mean, I honestly don't care. Screw those guys. It makes me so angry that they've gotten the level of play out of that defense the last couple of years, basically just based off of the, great Aaron Donald. Like it feels like, well, we talk about it all the time on our show, right? The way you build a team is from the inside out.
Yeah.
And Aaron Donald was that foundational piece inside. And I think that helps somebody like Ernest Jones look as good as he does in the run game and elevates the play of some of the other dudes we mentioned earlier, whether it's Hoyt or Young or whoever you want to talk about, especially with a rookie defensive coordinator. I just don't see this as being a automatic ascension to better. And between that and the idea that Matt Stafford playing another complete season seems just freaking unlikely as hell to me. That one game separation between the Seahawks and Rams, that disappears really quickly.
Well, why are you worried at all if you're a Rams fan having Matt Stafford in the backfield when you have Handsome Jimmy backing him up who can come in and provide you with a complete picture of health if your quarterback goes down?
I hear you. You take a guy who's injury prone as your starter and you back him up with another injury prone guy. But this is what I can't bang on too much because Jimmy G is your backup. It's a damn good backup. Like that's a guy that you can turn to. He can throw in between the hashes for a couple games and get you through a short stretch there, keep you competitive. I actually think that that's a pretty good signing for them, if I'm being honest. In comparison to Wentz or Baker or Stetson Bennett or, whoever else you want to plug in there. I think that's probably an upgrade for them.
And it reminds me, too, of, I think, some of the things that McVay has done offensively that I think helps out what would be a relatively bad defense. Being able to run the ball, control the offense. They put together long drives generally. And I think that helps out their bad defense. Obviously, with Aaron Donald, it's going to have an impact, but it mitigates some of that impact, too, when you have an offense that can play ball control offense the way they do.
I mean, you got to give McVay credit when it comes to that. He does seem to have an offense that does put together those long drives. And then you've got somebody like Stafford, who's very intelligent with the football.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a damn good quarterback. When he was brought into the Rams, I was really upset about it because I was like, this could be really the thing that puts him over the top. Like Stafford is that good. And, there's some people who agreed. There's some people who laughed at that. And I think we can all agree now that Stafford is that sort of dude. And look, this offense is only going to go as far as Stafford's health. And that's about it. So we'll see. That's a big gamble for the LA Rams, but worked out for him last year.
I don't know if I want to go too crazy on the Matt Stafford hype, though. I mean, it's weird that when a guy comes in and wins a Super Bowl and then gets his second Pro Bowl nod in the history of his career, all of a sudden becomes like a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, he's not a Hall of Famer. Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure we made that line of division here.
Yeah, he's just done too much losing in his career. But you always kind of knew, like, hey, he's better than that Lions team year in and year out. Yeah, and that's where we're at.
Although,
here. And,
to be fair, Jared Goff goes to the Lions team that Matt Stafford had little success with, and then all of a sudden is having success.
Yeah, Stafford didn't have the regime that's there now, Dan Campbell and crew, right?
But it is a little bit weird to see that happen.
Yeah, one of the rare win-wins in the NFL, no doubt about it. And as I just mentioned earlier, I think as Stafford goes, so does the Rams this year. And with that said, I think you do need to bring up the idea that Stafford's not happy with his contract. And after signing a 4-year extension last year, plays 1 year of the deal, has 3 years remaining, and now is demanding more guaranteed cash. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Like, do you piss off Matt Stafford and you don't get the best Matt Stafford, or do they find a way to come together on this? I mean, if I'm the Rams, like, I just signed you to an extension. I'm sorry that you did it and all these other quarterback deals went through, but I mean, such is life.
He was in a tough position last year in terms of his ability to negotiate too, because all the talk last off season was his shoulder, and if he was going to even be able to come back and be the same type of guy with the shoulder injuries he was facing. And they still gave him a deal, and, enough that you would think that he'd be satisfied. But to then see the type of quarterback contracts that are coming out since then, I could see why. I mean, if I were Patrick Mahomes, it would make a whole lot more sense, being the type of guy that he is, to demand more money. Matt Stafford, I'm not so sure, based on where he is in his career, but also based on where he is in his career, you want to get as much as possible as you're on your way out.
And that kind of shows you, too, that maybe Stafford doesn't believe in his body holding up over the next few years. And you see guys that are like Stafford up in terms of talent in the league, guys who can really play quarterback. They generally don't leave the game because they stop playing quarterback well. It's more either their body says no, or you can watch they don't want to be hit anymore. Mm-hmm. And that can happen about any year. I always thought it was going to happen a little earlier than it did with Brady. I mean, 5-6 years before Brady was done, I was like, oh, it's got to be in a year now where he doesn't want to do that. And then there's guys that it happens to a little earlier than you would ever imagine, right? But you hear all the greats talk about it. Like, usually if it's not the body that fails, it's that willingness to take that shot on 2nd and 7 and, double A gap blitz right in your mouth and hit the quick slant on the hot, knowing you're going to get blowed up. You get 36, 37 years old and you get tired of it. So it's interesting to think that maybe Stafford might be getting tired of it. That's why he's trying to get a little bit of more of that guaranteed money put in the contract, or he doesn't think his body's going to hold up. But those are two things you're going to be looking for this year as a Seahawks fan. Like, mentally, is he still in that headspace to want to take those hits? And then also the injuries obviously are a little easier to track, but we'll be watching that too.
Well, he was only able to play 9 games in 2022. Last year, though, able to play 15 complete games. And 36 years old. That is the time where a lot of quarterbacks, they start getting that a little bit hesitant to take those hits. And as a quarterback who generally plays under center more than a lot of the quarterbacks in the league, you put him back at in shotgun. Is it going to make that offense as effective? I'm not so sure.
Not if they want to be the running team that I think that they're striving to become. That's because it all kind of points that direction with draft picks and where they are at this stage in their team building and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see. But if I'm going to guess on how things go for the Rams this year, they won the Super Bowl. They had a bad year following. I thought that they would have another bad year last year, somehow strung together 10 wins. I think that catches up with them. I think that's an overachievement for this roster as a whole. And again, subtract Aaron Donald, I think this is more like a 7-win team this year. I think they're going to be closer to competing with the Cards for bottom of the division than with the Niners for the top of the division.
I hope so, just because I hope that for the Rams every single year. And there's just so many questions on defense that I think that as much as they want to be a running team, I don't think that they've done enough with the defense to not be attacked on the perimeter. Like, I can see Kyle Shanahan just continually attacking the perimeter, whether it's through the run game with jet sweeps, whether it's passes out in the flat. And I don't see, enough strength on the edges of this Rams defense for them to be able to continuously stop that. So it's going to be, I think, the weakness that a lot of teams go after.
Right. And you talked about the Rams ball control offense and all that stuff. It's a lot harder to possess the football and be patient running the football when your defense is giving up long ass drives, time of possession is totally lopsided. You feel like you have to score every time you have the ball. As a 12, ask me how I know. It's hard to overcome that. And you mentioned running to the perimeter or attacking the perimeter through screens and all that stuff. I mean, no Aaron Donald, I'm attacking the middle. Let's see what you got now. Like, the big dog's gone up front. Like, let's see what it's like now.
Let's see how Johnson holds up. Let's see how Cam Curl from Washington does with his 2-year, $9 million deal, filling in behind the dude that they ended up losing. Yeah, I think that then exposes that middle of the field more and exposes a guy like Ernest Jones and the other starting linebacker who knows if Roseboom is going to be the other linebacker, or they can find somebody to take his spot too. But there's so much in terms of question marks on the defense. And yes, they did draft, so they have a lot of youth, but you don't know. That's, again, another question mark, is how that youth is going to come up and if they're actually going to be able to fill in behind some of those veterans if they do go down to injury.
Absolutely. And since we hate this team so much, and this is a hate-filled podcast regarding the Rams defense, do they finish last or second to last in your opinion?
Second to last, because I don't think that they can be worse than the Cardinals.
I don't know. I like Gannon a little bit as a defensive coach.
I do too, but I
feel like he can get more out of nothing than Chris, Mike, whoever Shula they have now.
I still think that the Rams are going to have a more formidable front seven than the Cardinals.
I am not at all convinced that any of that front seven is nearly as formidable as it was last year. And I mean, I don't know how many times I can say Aaron Donald in a podcast. People are going to make fun of me, but like, I think it's that important. I think it's that important.
Maybe I've just been, after watching so much Rams content over the last week, I've just been, it's starting to get through to me that maybe some of these guys can actually have some talent and fill in for that loss of Aaron Donald.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a guy you replace. It'll be fine.
I've been indoctrinated by other Rams, the other Rams followers.
Oh, well, I'm glad I'm here to help talk you out of it, man. I understand he's just one man, but holy smokes, again, one of the greatest to ever do it. And I think it's a bigger deal. And you can always tell, too, like with your rival teams when you're reading all their stuff and listening to their videos and everything, like the stuff they try to gloss over or things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Every one of these articles, every one of these videos are like, yeah, so we draft this guy, draft that guy. Hoyt had a good year. And then we got Turner. Like, it's going to be good. Aaron Donald's gone, but we got all these other dudes. And it's
Wait, what did you say, Aaron?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. So that is a legit concern that you don't want to talk about at all.
No. Yeah, that is kind of weird that a generational talent retires and you don't seem to spend enough time talking about how the team's going to work around that and overcome it.
Let alone just the leadership aspect. Who becomes that leader on defense? Like, really the whole team. Yeah, definitely Bobby Brown. Of course. How did I leave him off? Yeah, I think he was the voice of that entire team. Is it going to be Cup? Is it Stafford that takes over at that point?
I mean, maybe that's why you do keep a guy like John Johnson, because he's the one veteran really on that whole defensive group.
Right.
Like, he's the only guy who's been there more than 2 or 3 years. I mean, I kind of joked about Bobby Brown, but he's, him and Ernest Jones came around in 2021. Right. Roseboom, he's been there for a long time, but the South Dakota State linebacker who primarily special teams, I think, is
where he should be.
He should be, right? Yeah,
yeah. Kind of a John Radigan type player.
And those are the guys that they've been having success with at linebacker all these years. It's very annoying.
It's very annoying. Everything that has a beginning has an end. This can't continue. And between Raheem Morris and all the other changes that have happened to this Rams defense, like, it's time for it to come to an end.
Well, we will see when it comes to their record. We talked about Adam Rank and his record prediction for the Arizona Cardinals on the last show. So I figured, why not stick with the Adam Rank prediction once again for this LA Rams team? as much as you want to say, like, as far as schedule predictions go, I kind of have a little bit of respect for the guy who goes through and predicts all the teams' schedules. And it doesn't just, cover one team and predict for one season. Like, he actually went through and did this for all the teams in the NFL. So that takes a lot of work. So you at least have to give him credit for that.
Do his picks line up, though, in terms of if he's doing the Jags prediction, let's say, and says, they beat the Titans week 3. When he's going through the Titans schedule, does he make sure that the Titans then lose the Jags so that his
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't give him credit for it if there were conflicts with regard to.
Okay. All right. That's definitely an exercise that takes some time. All right. Give the man some props.
You got all off season when you work full time in the NFL. And so why not do that? But going down their schedule, the first 4 weeks of the season, they are at Detroit to start the year, 2 games on the road, at Arizona, and then they're back home for a road game against the San Francisco 49ers, who will outnumber their fans in their own home stadium, and then at Chicago. So really 4 road games to start off the season for these Los Angeles Rams.
I think they beat the Cards and the Bears.
Adam Rank has them, so we'll go with other Adams. He has them beating the Cardinals and Niners and losing to the Lions and the Bears. Okay.
Hey, look, Super Bowl hangover, some of the infighting that's been happening with the Niners, the Ayuk contract situation.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I can see him coming out and having a slow start. Like, that one's not, like, outrageous to say there.
The Bears, though. The Bears in week 4, like the Bears are going to have things together with Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams by week 4.
No. The Bears aren't going to be good this year. I hope people understand that.
Okay, but regardless, a 2-2 start, you both agree on that. That seems reasonable. I think it really could go anyway because I'm not convinced that they couldn't come back and even beat the Lions in week 1, but then a couple of weird games where they aren't able then to beat. Like, I could see them easily losing to the Niners, though, because, again, I think Shanahan might know how to beat this Rams defense, and I don't have that same type. And maybe the Cardinals, with the way that they start off strong, maybe they can even beat the Rams early on in the season.
Yeah. I'm not going that far.
You just tried to tell me that the Cardinals could have a better defense. You've always told me that the Cardinals, they start off strong. Why don't you think that they could just come out and beat the Rams after the Rams are coming off of a high of beating the Lions and getting revenge against the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last postseason?
I mean, I said I like Jonathan Gannon as a defensive coach. It gets, quite a bit out of average run-of-the-mill dudes. I don't think this Cards offense is going to be all that good. I really don't believe in Kyler Murray like some people do. A lot of people really thinking that he's going to be taking some magic step this year. And what is this, year 5, year 6? Okay. I don't know. I mean, you're right, though. They do often start out strong and then, completely crap the bed for, 3/4 of the season. So that's maybe your best argument towards that.
I'm going to be just like the analysts that you dislike and make the argument for why the Cardinals beat the Rams, whereas last week I had the Cardinals easily losing to the Rams.
Okay. Yeah. I like you're consistent in being the steel man here.
It's know your rival season, and I have to make up reasons to why each of these teams.
You're consistent in your inconsistency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2-2 seems about right for the Rams to start this off, whether they... it doesn't matter who they win or who they lose against. But it's this next stretch of games that might have me scratching my head as to Adam Rank's predictions, which you've got them playing the Green Bay Packers in, again, this is going to be another road game at home, as Green Bay fans will probably outnumber Rams fans in LA. They get their early bye week for the Rams, which they can't be super happy about, especially with Matt Stafford, who, well, maybe it works out timing wise to where he's already a little bit hurt by then and you could use that extra week. But then 3 technically home games in a row, Green Bay, bye, Vegas, and then the Minnesota Vikings before going on the road at the end of this 4-game stretch to take on our Seattle Seahawks.
Well, they'll lose to Green Bay. I think they're the creme de la creme in the NFC North, and they may go all the way to the Super Bowl this year. They might be my pick out of the NFC. I think that they have a decent shot at that. So I don't think the Rams have really any way to compete with that. I think the Packers are going to be able to just cram it down their throat the entire game with Josh Jacobs, and all Love has to do is enough to get the win. They tie against the bye. I don't even think they win the bye. And then I think Vegas might be the worst team in the league this year. So
they could be.
Go ahead and give them a win there.
But Minshew against that Rams defense?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love me some Minshew. It's just that's a difficult situation that he's in there. And as far as Minnesota goes, I think they're one of the bigger wild cards in the entire NFC. Good roster. Sam Darnold, is it going to be him for a good long time? Is McCarthy going to be the answer? And when is it that he comes in? I mean, how much do you like O'Connell as a coach? I actually am quite a fan. I think he's a heck of a coach.
Another McVay disciple.
Yeah. So
2 teams in that week of games, he's going up against one of his former coaches.
Yeah. I have them going 1-2 in that. Is it in Minnesota?
No, it's at home.
All right, fine. 2-1.
Okay. Yeah, Raiders, Vikings, and then obviously you have them losing to the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So
by a lot. And they scored -5 points.
So start off 2-2. Adam Rank has them going 4-0 over this stretch. And so at the midpoint, essentially, they're 6-2. We've got them 4-4.
Yeah, ours feels more right.
Okay. Next stretch of games. This is going to be an interesting stretch for them because they have Miami at home. They go on the road at New England. And they have Philadelphia in Los Angeles, on the road at New Orleans. So their road matchups, I think, are relatively favorable.
Okay. That's a loss to the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. New England, that's probably a win.
Yeah. If the Raiders aren't the worst team, New England might be the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. Philly is, again, it's a lot like Minnesota to me this year. I have no idea what that team is right now. After their finish last year, head coach still being in place, can Sirianni capture that magic that he had early in his tenure there, or is it how it is going down the stretch of the last year? Is that where their culture's at and where their head's at? I don't know. You lose Kelsey up front. Shoot, that's a dogfight, man. I just don't know what version of Philly you're getting in any way, shape, or form. New Orleans might be the most delightfully average team in the entire NFL. But I think they probably beat the Rams.
Okay. It sounds like you might agree with Adam Rank then. He has them going 1-3 with the only victory being against the Patriots.
Okay. Yeah. 1-3, 2-2. The Philly game's a total toss-up. I really have no idea.
Closing out the season with the last 5 games, Buffalo, a team that they have in their stadium in LA. Then 2 road games against the Niners and the Jets. And then finishing off the season at home against the Cardinals and the Seahawks.
There's 1 win in there.
Against the Cardinals.
Cards. Yeah.
Adam Rank has the Rams beating Buffalo and Seattle. Another Seahawks sweep by a division rival, according to Adam Rank, and finishing their 2024 regular season at 10-7.
Man, he must be based out of LA.
Because I think you gave them 6, maybe 7 wins.
Yeah, and that's being generous. Yeah, I tried to put my sports hate aside a little bit, be slightly objective, and Because really, if you were to ask my inner fandom and my inner child there, like what their record's going to be, they're going to have 2 wins on the year.
Well, that from a sports hate answer, that's completely acceptable.
But I think they take a step back. I think that defense takes a step back. The idea that they're going to rattle off another 10-year or a 10-win year with all the change and everything, it just seems preposterous, especially because I do believe defensively the Seahawks have to be better. And they got to at least get one of those 2 games. The idea that they get swept again by McVay, I just find that to be highly unlikely.
It is a concern, though, because I do have some concern over whether or not Mike Macdonald can solve Sean McVay's offense. It's something that I got frustrated with Pete over, and one of the reasons why I was ready to move on is because he's had all this time to try and solve it. I look back at that game that the Ravens played against the Rams, and I still have some similar concerns. You know, the Rams put up 29 points on that Ravens defense that was far more talented than the Seahawks defense. They gave up 20 points in the first half. Kyron Williams ran all over the Ravens D. And I don't know if I saw enough in that game to know for sure that Mike Macdonald can come in and put together a defense that can stop a Sean McVay offense.
Is it going to be worse?
Well, it can't be worse. Pete never figured him out.
Okay, then it's got to be better. Like, it's probably not going to be exactly the same. Most likely it's going to be better in some way, shape, or form. So then all you're banking on is the idea that Grubb's not a disaster. Like, if you get that, that should be a Seahawks sweep of the Rams.
It has to be, though. I still think it's going to come down to a lot of these games with the Rams and that idea of the first to 30 points, because I still think the Rams offense is going to be able to produce. And with their defense not being able to hold anybody, it's just going to be a back and forth score fest. And, you know, which team can put up the most points? I have relative confidence that Stafford can lead that offense to 30 points a game for their average wins.
Yeah. It's the strength of their team. And if you're going to bank on anything success wise for the Rams, that would probably where you'd put your money for sure.
At least that's the point of failure that I'm prepared for and worried about when it comes to the Rams.
The only point of failure that I'm interested in seeing this year is for the entire Rams organization. I just want to see broad-based organizational failure.
It's time, because they've had it so good for so long. They've been propped up by the LA media for so long since moving to LA, and they're due. They're due for that time to where people are propping them up, talking about how Matt Stafford's this Hall of Fame quarterback, how Sean McVay's a genius, and how, you know, even with the loss of a generational talent, they'll be able to find a way to get back to the playoffs. Like, they're due for a come down.
They're due for a come down. I'm sick of these catfish from LA, and I'm waiting. Yeah, Seahawks sweep this year. Seahawks are going to sweep the Rams, and it's going to feel oh so good.
Sweeping the Rams, sweeping the Cardinals. Maybe you split against the Niners, and 5-1 in the division feels a whole lot better going into this 2024 season than what we've been dealing with in the past. And man, you get 5 wins in the division. Yeah, the Seahawks are in prime position now that Aaron Donald is finally gone.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Thank God.
Let's get to the second half of the show.
All right. Catfish the Rams.
Getting into the second half of the show, Adam, we've got a little bit of news since our last show. One thing to discuss is the throwback uniforms have been announced. The one game that we'll get to see our Seahawks wearing their throwback uniforms will be the home game against the stupid San Francisco 49ers.
All right. That'll help make that a little bit more fun. And for all of you your sports hate chili runs a little hotter for the Niners, check in next week, because we're going to be hitting them up here And, they're a pretty good team. So we're going to have to make up some irrational sports hate things to throw out the Niners. And I'm looking forward to doing it.
Of all the teams in the division, apart from being able to come up with ways to hate Sean McVay, I think that there are more ways with that 49ers team.
Yeah. Whether it's the whiny ass fan base or their superiority complex.
They have a lot of players that are more deserving of sports hate too.
Yeah. Their overrated quarterback. Go down the list, right? I'm looking forward to that one because at the end of the day, man, some of these runs, they don't last forever. And I think the window's closing on this 49ers team. I don't know. Again, we'll get into it next week, but why don't you all sit and ponder this question? How many games does Christian McCaffrey play this upcoming season?
How many games does Shanahan coach this upcoming season? That's another question you have to ask yourself.
Ooh, you think he's a hot seater?
I want him to be.
Okay. Yeah. He's on the hot seat. His ass is twitching.
There's just going to be some internal struggle that I think leads people to question his suitability as head coach long term. I'll drop that nugget now, and we'll have to explore that later.
Hey, all right. Okay. So yeah, next week, for all of you San Fran haters, we're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Jamal Adams has a new team. He has signed with the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's a good enough place as any for a career to go to die. Like, I wish his body hadn't blown up on him. Like, he was a heck of a player when we traded for him, and just unfortunate, man.
1 year deal worth at least $1.125 million. So not a big contract. That's something the Seahawks probably could have done.
Would you just want to light $1.12 million on fire? Like, what are the odds that he even makes that Titans roster?
It was just interesting to me that he went to the Titans after the Seahawks announced that it's the Titans that they're doing this not mock game, but the shared practices with ahead of the actual preseason game.
Well, maybe it's the only action that Jamal sees all year, and he's going to try to get his revenge joint practice game in.
I don't know if I like that. I don't want Jamal going after our dudes in practice.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
It feels like he's going to need the preseason just to get healthy himself.
Yes.
But it sounded like he also had a lot of agent and coach connections that are there in Tennessee. So that would have led to him being signed by them.
Yeah. And they're a team that's desperate for talent. I mean, they're a bottom 6 roster in the league or so, right?
Probably. They've got some talent here and there.
Sure. Every NFL team does.
Well, we've got a lot of talent among our members of the flock. They went to getintheflock.com. They're helping to support the show. You can become a member by going to getintheflock.com. We have multiple tiers if you want to sign up to get benefits based on the tier. If you want to get into our Discord group, $3 and above gets you into that. There's a free tier that gets you onto an email list, so that way you know as soon as our shows are posting. And our $12 group gets you into our Ring of Honor Facebook group and gets you recognized at the end of a show just about every month. And we want to thank our executive producers, DCH and Has No Clue.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate you all sticking with us here through the off season. And look, if you've gotten to this point of the podcast, you're still listening. I'm guessing this has provided a little value for your life. So you know what? Quit being a freeloader and become one of the little flockers. Like, we appreciate it.
Well, we hope Scott Cody is still listening because he is in as a $3 member of the flock. Welcome to the flock to Scott.
Heck yeah, Scott. See, he's got it figured out.
Also got Arctic Snowhawk in at $3 a month. So welcome to the flock as well. 2 new members, Adam. One came in just after you, there must have been some type of mind connection after you mentioned the idea of potentially quitting. And then that was even before the show had posted. So I appreciate that message getting out just through mind waves. And then I think it was Arctic Snowhawk that answered the call as soon as the show actually posted. Nice. Yeah. The Hawker's strong, man. I like the name Arctic Snowhawk, too. That
That's pretty cool.
All right. Well, that is what we got for our members of the flock. I know we're going to have our Pick'em League coming out soon. The Pick'em League is not ready to actually set up because I went to go find a couple of the emails of our winners from this past season. It's down for maintenance, so not yet time to sign up for the Pick'em League, but we'll be sure to let our flockers know when that is open and available because we'll be continuing that into the season.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll do it for a few weeks as always and then start forgetting and making it that much easier for everybody else to win.
You would think that with the betting show and with this show, like we should be able to find a window of content where we could actually make our picks. We actually had a pick show for a couple seasons, and maybe we need to get back to that so you can actually make and deliver your picks every week.
That'd be fun. Okay. No, that sounds good. Especially being off the road a heck of a lot more. That makes it a lot easier to do such things.
Maybe that then becomes another goal. Maybe we need to come up with a number of flockers who sign up in the off season to bring back the pick show.
What do you think? Between now and when?
Like get us back over 300 members of the flock between now and the end of August.
No, if they did that, for sure. Pick show every week.
Okay. We just did this on the fly. That was not something that we're having a production meeting right now here as we record.
Yeah, you can see how the sausage is made. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. 300 members of the flock. Get in theflock.com, and we're going to get back to doing pick'em shows. How about that?
Heck yeah. More content.
There we go. On to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for the little baby catfish woodpeckers that live out in the aspen tree out in front of the cabin. We saw earlier this year woodpecker make a little nest up in there. We're like, oh, that's cute. There'll be little baby woodpeckers. It'll be fun, they said. It'll be cute, they said. Yeah. These guys, I was told via the internet that they should be moving out of the house in about 30, 35 days or so. We're going on 2 months here. These guys, like, they're squatters. They're squatter baby woodpeckers. They're not leaving. They are loud as hell, Brandon, all day long. It doesn't stop. It never stops. It doesn't stop. It never, ever stops. And I don't know why the mom hasn't kicked them out of the nest. I don't know. I don't know if, like, woodpecker housing is also, like, extra expensive right now or something. But there's lots of dead effing trees. Like, go find yourself one. Not right next to the cabin. I'm over it. Little baby woodpeckers in the aspen tree. Move out. Do better.
You've got failure to launch woodpecker kids.
Yes. They're annoying. After about week 5, dude, was when I was like, okay, like, I don't know that I can do this anymore.
How has Ollie not figured out an answer to this problem yet?
Well, he can't climb trees. And it's very tall, very high.
No,
but I had to make sure to put some of the firearms away that Brittany might find because she likes them less than I do. So, yeah,
she may be tempted to go after some woodpeckers, huh?
Well, I told her she couldn't live with baby woodpecker blood on her hands. Like, there's no way.
Seems fair.
Yeah,
you don't want to do that. You want that to happen naturally, but a whole summer with baby woodpeckers making noise. See, I just have a problem with dogs barking in our neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We've got people that they just put their dogs out at like 6 a.m. and they will bark at everything first thing in the morning and keep barking. And it's our alarm clock every day.
Yeah, that would.
And they don't live right next door to us. They're like a block and a half away.
Oh, that's rough. So is it little dogs or is it big dogs?
They are big dogs, but it's still loud. And so that has that deep bassy bark that I think you can go through walls.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I've always had a harder time with the little dogs, but they've always been right next door.
Mm-hmm. No, it's because they're so big and loud. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of far away. See, that's why Ollie dog lives way out here, man. I would not have that dog if we didn't live way out here because it would be really annoying to other people.
No, and I appreciate that. Those are the kind of dogs that you should have, and that if you live way out and maybe not right in town. And if you do have them right in town, maybe you bring them inside if they're being crazy like that, like through the early hours of the morning.
It sounds like these people just are ready to go to work, throw the dog outside, and then just don't worry about it throughout the rest of the day.
That has to be it. They may work at we are close to the hospital, so they might be hospital people. And so maybe they don't have, I suppose you could just keep your dogs inside, but.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they don't mind noise, so I've got some baby woodpeckers.
I'm guessing that they aren't there, because there's no way as a dog owner that you wouldn't go, hey, what are my dogs barking at for the last 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be a neighborhood meetup about this at some point.
There could be. My do better this week is for Missoula gas stations. And maybe this is gas stations all over, because I went down to Missoula this past week for a concert. We're gone for a few hours. Well, we walked around town, got dinner, caught the shuttle, so we didn't have to park at the Kettle House Amphitheater there, and enjoyed the show. We come back to the parking garage, start up the car, and I immediately get an alert that I have a flat rear tire on the driver's side. It's down to 13 PSI. I didn't have my little travel air pump with me. I'm like, oh, we're right downtown, though. So one of these gas stations nearby has got to have an air pump. It was 11 o'clock at night, so some of them were closed. But, a lot of times, even if they're closed, there's a pump outside. We drove up and down Broadway, all around the college campus, all around the street downtown. There were places that had a sign that said, or you're like painted on the ground that said air, and no air hose where it was. Other places, just nothing at all. I had to drive all the way out to the truck stop on the way out of town. I'm trying to go slow because I have 13 PSI in the tire. And who knows how quickly or not quickly it's leaking out. Fortunately, with the gauges, it was easy to see that it was holding at 13. But able to creep my way out to one of the truck stops, able to fill up the air in the tire. But I just could not believe that gas stations nowadays, like the one that had the spot for it, there was another one that had a spot for it, no hose. How do gas stations not have air hoses for tires? Do better.
Yeah, this is maybe the most distinctly Missoula phenomenon you could bring up here. That and the pedestrians just walking out in the street without looking anywhere beforehand, because apparently their bodies are made of steel. But yeah, no, you can't fill up a tire in freaking Missoula. It's been like that for years and years, man. Like, there's a reason that I ended up buying the little, 12 volter that you throw in the car, right? That you plug into the cigarette lighter, is for this very reason. It's crazy. They have no air to spare. Like I said, you go to places where they've got the sign up there, there's no air there. Like, it's awful. Like, I think what a lot of it has to do with is I think the employees just get sick and tired of listening to the compressor like every hour or so cycle. And so they just cut it off. Like, I don't know. Like, what could the other reason possibly be? There's too many homeless people coming stealing air? Like, what? It's not like a bathroom situation, right? Like, I don't get it. And yeah, it seems like it's more prevalent in Missoula than about anywhere else.
Well, that's the confusing thing to me, too, is that Missoula is very much, with it being a college town, it's a bike town. And how often, as a biker, are you probably needing to add a little air to your tires? Like, it's just courtesy to have a little air pump there. Most places have it for free, but some places, like I stopped in Polson on the way home because to top it off and make it the rest of the way. And I found one that you pay like $2.50 to be able to use, but most places are free. Yeah. It was
$2.50 to use an air compressor. Did they,
yeah.
Was it air infused with gold dust or diamond flakes?
But at least it was there. Look, after I drove through Missoula and found zero, I thought, well, at least, this has the spirit of consumerism, and they're making money off of it by having one here.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody's retiring on $2.50 tire. That's outrageous.
Well, it wasn't $250 a tire. It was just $250 to be able to. I don't know if I could use it in unlimited amount of time or not, but again,
was it like a car wash where all of a sudden you're like on your second tire and beep boop beep boop, and you're like, oh no!
About this, let me tell you about this pump, because I used the one at the truck stop in Missoula, and it worked awesome. Because I think for semi truck drivers, like, it even had a long cord. It was free. You could, and it just, you put it in.
Was it at Love's?
No, it was at Cenex.
Oh, okay.
And it had a lot of pressure to it. This one was in the Safeway parking lot at the gas station. And the reason why it bothered me is I had a dude on a motorcycle like come up and fill up in his gas tank right behind me. This is at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm trying to air up my tire, and I got some dude behind me getting gas that I don't have eyes on. So I put the pump on the tire, and it would just air like psst, and then stop, and then it go psst. It was like the slowest air pump that I've ever used. And so for $2.50, like, I would have expected to pay money for the one that I used at the truck stop because it worked awesome. This one, it wanted to take its time. Like, it didn't want to put out too much air at once. I don't know why it was so stingy with the air, but it was very noticeable at 1 o'clock in the morning that I wanted to hurry up and fill up my tire and move on. And it was like, no, we're doing this the long way.
Wow. Like,
but then I went to a gas station just down the road because I was like, because the place that I stopped at, it wasn't open, but it had at least the pump there. And I didn't know if I was gonna run into another situation in Missoula where this was going to be the only pump in town. I drive down the road a little bit to get a snack and to get a drink, and they had a free one just right outside. And I did end up using that one. It worked just as well as the one on the truck stop in Missoula. But because that one worked so poorly, I still needed to top it off just half a mile down the road.
Man, it's almost like that, dude on a bike came up behind you and stole $2.50 straight out of your pocket. Like, it's that kind of crime right there.
Yeah. Well, if that was the worst that would have happened, I think I could have dealt with that.
I have a good buddy that suffered a pretty gnarly assault in Polson there. So you were right to be a little leery, dude. Yeah.
Oh, okay then. I'm glad I'm just hearing about this now.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, it was nearly 30 years ago. So.
Okay. You might have told me that story now that I think about it.
Yeah. But hey, anyway. Maybe your car wanted to go rock crawling or something. It sounds like it had its tires aired down, ready to go.
Yeah. Just one of them though. And now I have to get all new tires because that flat can't be repaired.
You think that $2.50 thing is a scam? You can't replace one tire on an all-wheel drive vehicle scam feels awfully scammy to me, because just think about how often your tires don't wear evenly, and they're like, oh shoot, if it's just a millimeter or two off, it'll tear up your whole drivetrain. Well, just driving around, they wear unevenly by quite a bit. So, like, how does that not tear up the drivetrain?
Well, to be fair, I recognize that is a little bit scammy, but I also am at the end of the life on all my tires pretty much. So, like, I probably should have done it before the winter.
Oh, well, good for you. I'm glad you at least got your money's worth out of those. If it wasn't for if you didn't out of the air pump.
This made the decision final. Like, I have to get new tires now.
Nice. Gotcha.
On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life this week is for Slate, and only because they have brought some attention to something that I've been pounding the table about when it comes to travel for a while now. And that's window seat wasters, Brandon. If you're a longtime listener to this podcast, you know how I feel about people getting on a plane, getting a window seat, and then immediately shutting it and not using live Google Earth as they fly around. They're just not curious enough to know what the countryside actually looks like when you're flying over it. It drives me crazy. Slate puts out with the author here, Henry Grabar, a great article going through all the reasons why you're an absolute fool if you waste your window seat. And this has to stop, and people need to pull the shade up, open their eyes, enjoy the world as they're having their flying recliner take them from one point to the next. Look, every time I get on the plane, I will open my window, and, if there's nobody in the window seats before and after me, like, I might preemptively open the windows just to maybe get them to want to keep it open, try to open their eyes to these sort of things. And I think anything like this article that brings more attention to this very serious issue in our country is awesome and better at life than Skip Bayless. So thank you, Slate Magazine.
I think part of it, though, is your jealousy toward people who can actually sleep on planes, because I think the window seat wasters are also the same people who are airplane nappers. And they're smart because they want to get the bulkhead so they have that extra bit of support for their head. Because it is tough to, now I can do it. I can sleep anywhere on any plane. But it's also nice to have that little bit of extra support next to your head. So that way you make sure that you're not slumping over, slouching on your neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a strategy a person can have. And you're right. It's full-blown jealousy. That's exactly what it is. I'm very angry at those people. There's no doubt about it. I don't know. Don't you get one of those crazy toilet seat pillows that you put around your neck like Clinton has? Like if you can,
but I've never been a big fan of those.
I can't understand why. Like they look so fashionable and seem completely functional. That does frustrate me that people can do that. But I don't know. Sleep before you get on the plane. I can't look at the ground before I get on the plane. Like I can't, from 20,000 feet up. You can sleep before you get on the plane.
That's true.
Yeah.
You make a good point there.
Well, good, because I just pulled it out of my ass and I had nothing else.
My better at life this week is for fitness guru Richard Simmons. Adam, I have to imagine that you and I, being from the era, that your mom was probably also sweating to the oldies because, I feel like if you were a mom during that time, there was probably something wrong with you if you did not have the Richard Simmons Sweating to the Oldies DVD or VHS on the shelf of your home, because, he was a part of everyone's fitness goals in that late 80s, early 90s time frame. And a big part of it was, just the way his personality, it was infectious. I remember like his appearances, especially on the David Letterman show, because they always made you laugh. They made you smile. And Richard Simmons was unapologetically authentic. He was awesome. He made the world a better place. And I'm sad that he's passed. And for that, Richard Simmons, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, I'd seen that headline, and it was kind of surprising because he kind of went into hiding for like a while.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to be a private person after being a very public figure for so long.
I could get that for sure. But you're right. I mean, Richard Simmons was a fixture in that fitness, at-home fitness community as much as like leg warmers and perms back then, And I don't know how many do you think he got any residuals for like, leg warmers and colorful tank tops and perms? Like, cause he sold a lot of those, I imagine.
I would have to think so. Like he obviously did well enough from that time to where he could go into hiding. It felt like, that was his, how he made his money. And then he probably didn't need to work anymore after that.
Yeah. Good for him. And the Dave interviews were pretty fun too, because he was so awkward at times that it even embarrassed Dave Letterman a little bit, which was always a good time.
Did you see that Pauly Shore played him in a kind of a short movie? Like it's a 9-minute movie out on YouTube. And Pauly Shore was probably not a real good actor during times of like Encino Man and Biodome, but they were fun movies. But I watched a little bit of the video, and he captured Richard Simmons so well. It was kind of a shame because I guess Simmons didn't really approve of this little short film, but Pauly Shore, he captured him really well in that 9 minutes. That gave me a bigger appreciation for Pauly Shore.
I didn't know that video exists, and you're right. That has to be perfect casting. That definitely fits right there.
He looks just like him.
He does, man. Yeah. And even just kind of their personality as a whole. They kind of match. Maybe they're brothers from another mother or something.
Maybe. Well, and when Simmons didn't endorse Pauly Shore playing him, he's like, who else is going to play you?
Yeah. What, you want John Hamm? Like
he actually wanted Tom Cruise, I think.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess he's short and crazy enough. Maybe he could have pulled it off.
He could have pulled it off. Tom Cruise is a good actor.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong about Pauly Shore, though. Maybe not the most gifted actor, but like for the Pauly Shore role, right? Because he's a little like Adam Sandler, or, you know, pick the actor that kind of are just the same dude in every movie.
Uh-huh.
You know, yeah, that is Pauly Shore. What was the one where he was on the farm? That was a good one, too.
Yeah. What was that one? I might have to go on a
for
Pauly Shore movie binge. You know who? I think Pauly Shore.
Do more than one. Yeah.
I think he could play Sean McVay once McVay gets to be an old coach.
Yes. 100%. He could do the voice.
He has the voice for sure. He kind of has, like, if you cut his hair short and gelled him up, I think he could pull the hair off.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can find enough hair gel in the world somehow, I think he could make it happen. Yeah.
That's all we need. We need Pauly Shore as Sean McVay. It'll be the downfall of Sean McVay late in his career. And I look forward to that time.
There you go. I can feel the title for the movie already, The Downfall of Sean McVay in the piss-ass Rams.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Catfish the Rams.